Before Yusef can even figure out who might have done this, they hear a familiar voice. Apparently, Sion is sitting on the staircase, already waiting for them to arrive. Yusef quickly asks what the hell he's doing there, while the other lackey is just thrilled to see him and tells him to join them. Sion gets up from his seat, ready to dive into action, but not before asking two important questions. First, he wants to know how they found out about Hyunho's Taeokboki place, which was a hidden gem only he knew about. Yusef casually pulls down his mask and explains that when Sion didn't bring the cigarettes he was supposed to, Yusef followed him and saw him hanging out with the neighborhood kids. That's when he spotted Hyunho arguing with his mother. Sion realizes that it was actually because of him that these thugs found out about the place. He then moves on to his second question and tells Yusef to think carefully before answering. He wants to know why they're really here. That's when Yusef flexes his big iron pipe and tells Sion they're just here to handle things with Hyunho's mother, to keep her from filing a lawsuit and let her sleep peacefully. He's actually glad Sion's here too, because he's been getting on his nerves lately. Yusef reminds him about the push from earlier and figures out that Sion was just pretending to bully Hyunho, and in reality, he was trying to protect him the whole time. Yusef admits he was too dense to see it sooner and was itching to take care of Sion as well. With that, Sion is done with the interrogation. He picks up the fire extinguisher and Yusef doesn't hesitate to swing his giant rod. Sion quickly pulls the pin from the extinguisher, aims it at Yusef, and starts blasting him with all the bubbly gas. As their vision blurs, one of the lackeys catches a glimpse of an extinguisher heading straight for his face. Before he knows it, the red tank smacks him right on the noggin, and the impact also sends Yusef sprawling to the ground too. Sion quickly shoves his buddy off, grabs the rod again while Sion handles the other two lackeys. When he sees Yusef making a move, he blocks the iron rod with the extinguisher like a pro. In a flash, he ducks down and slams the extinguisher onto Yusef's feet, smashing his toes into oblivion. Sion then boots him over the stairs, sending him tumbling backward. He then starts trolling down the stairs, while casually informing Yusef that his cuneiform bone above the metatarsal is broken, and he's pretty sure this arrogant bastard won't be walking anytime soon with those messed up legs. The filthy man groans in pain, lying defenseless on the ground, and shakily asks why Sion is doing this to him. That's when Sion drops the bombshell. He explains that there are 3 principles that were drilled into his mind as a kid. First, a parent's word is absolute. Second, don't use violence without permission. As he says this, he lands a devastating punch right on the guy's head. The other lackeys on the ground are totally lost, not understanding a word of this crazy rant. It's pretty wild that we were led to think Hyunho, the whiny kid with glasses, was the main character. Turns out, Sion is actually the missing kid from the orphanage. After losing several teeth and with a broken nose, Yusef begs for forgiveness and pleads for Sion to stop. But our boy keeps going, explaining that the third principle is, if there's a threat to the parent's safety, the kid can ignore the first 2 rules and handle the situation however necessary to keep the parent safe. Sion remembers Hyunho's mother saying that all of Hyunho's friends are like her own children. So, basically, she's his mother now. And if anyone threatens his mother, he's got the green light to beat them to a pulp. With a resounding bang, Sion smashes that filthy bastard's skull, and the sound echoes through the building. The scene cuts back to the creepy orphanage, where a sister is visiting the director. She tells him there's a call from Korea. When the man asks who it is, she says it's the Baeko personnel. The old man's mind perks up as he recognizes the caller and quickly grabs the phone. The caller quickly reports that they've found the kid they've been hunting for, the legendary figure from the Dead Mansion project, codenamed Sean. Apparently, he's in Korea right now. And there you have it, the official introduction of our boy. The Orphanage, which is known as Dead Mansion, is a highly funded multinational organization that produces weapons for the rich. In the eyes of the Orphanage, he was the perfect child, and his code name is Sean Park Sion. They had us fooled in the first half, not gonna lie. I really thought the black-haired guy was the real MC. Here's the scoop on our boy's backstory. Sean was one of the children created by the Dead Mansion project. He was the pinnacle of their product they had produced so far. He was top-notch in infiltration, weapon skills, and VIP assassination. He was meant to be supplied to a top client of the Orphanage, a notorious Yakuza organization in Japan. But there was a mix-up, and instead of Japan, he ended up in Korea. The director explains that it's been 5 years since that mishap, and he had almost thought Sean was dead, so they gave up on him. But now, this guy, who looks more like a filthy rich mafia boss than a father, is thrilled they've found him. He quickly tells the sister to bring Sean back as soon as possible, by any means necessary, because he can't wait any longer. The woman, whom we've been calling Sister, lets down her black veil, revealing her dead eyes. She quickly adheres to the order, saying she will proceed with the retrieval operation immediately, and this lady in question goes by the name Rachel. As soon as she drops her act as Sister, my God, this woman looks absolutely creepy. Dressed in a tight black shiny suit, she's not holding back a single bit in flexing her big guns. She makes it clear that she will drag Sion back even if she has to take him out by force. This woman is the Dead Mansion instructor, and her specialty is still unknown. However, the director quickly tells her to simmer down because he needs Sion unharmed, and she doesn't need those guns either. The lady quickly gets embarrassed and starts picking up her robe to put it back on, muttering about how she was just getting into character. In the next scene, we see Kwon Byung-woo, Yusef's father, bowing his head to apologize to Hyunho's mother. He promises to cover all medical expenses, mental damages, and any other compensation she might need. But the woman flat out states that nothing will change with just an apology because this isn't something that can be resolved with words alone. The students nearby are startled to see this filthy rich man bowing his head like this. And Kwon Byung-woo finally lifts his head, turns around with a blank face, saying he will be taking his leave. The woman is utterly baffled by his strange behavior. In response, Kwon Byung-woo covers his face with a handkerchief and reveals that he was here to make amends. But since they can't resolve anything through discussion, he will leave because efficiency is key in all matters. He then walks forward towards his luxurious Maybach, telling the woman that he also knows other ways to sort out this mess because he's quite the expert in these matters. With those parting words, his car zooms off. He then complains to his manager about how disgustingly stingy and smelly that place was, insisting they tear it all down and build a mixed-use complex instead. The rich man then asks about Sion, or we can also call him Sean, and asks his manager if they have taken care of that kid. The manager lets him know their people are already en route and the secretary will ring them once the job's done. Kwon Byung-woo just nods and heads to Sanlim University Seongsim Hospital. Inside, we find Yusef all banged up, wrapped in bandages like a mummy. He tells his dad the kid who messed him up was no average Joe. He kept rambling about some 3 engraved principles or something. His dad raises an eyebrow, asking if this is the new trend among kids. Yusef just shakes his head, saying he hasn't a clue. Before Yusef can spill more, his dad cuts him off and gives a cold stare to the women and humbly requests the nurse to give them some alone time. Once the lady is out of the way, he slaps his son hard right over his face, just like any typical father. After slapping Yusef's face, Byung-woo lets him have it. What's really grinding his gears isn't just that his son picked a fight, bullied some kids, and caused them to jump out of a window. Nah, what's really bothering him is that Yusef didn't clean up the mess afterward, leaving a trail of evidence behind. He drills into Yusef that the basics of the job are to avoid doing things twice, meaning don't screw up and leave evidence for others to find. Byung-woo tells him to watch his father closely and learn from this chance to fix things. Meanwhile, Sean is taking a beating from a group of goons sent by Byung-woo. The leader, decked out in gloves, watches as his lackeys drag the injured boy from the ground. With a scowl, he delivers a series of stinging slaps to Sean's face, not stopping until the boy collapses from sheer exhaustion. The glasses-wearing thug, looking down at Sean with a sneer, says, "You might have taken down a few kids, but you're nothing against adults." They grab one of Sean's arms, and the burly lackey yanks it straight, holding it firm. The leader then places his foot on Sean's arm and applies all his weight, leaving the poor kid writhing in agony. Before they leave, they make sure Sean knows this is payback for the humiliation and beating he dealt to their young master, Yusef. They're leaving him alive just so he can stew over his mistakes. As dusk settles in, Sean sits there, snapping his shoulder back with a sneer. He chuckles at how the goons couldn't even tell the difference between a dislocated and a broken arm, despite their big talk about being adults. The beating he received? Well, it was nothing compared to the thrashings Aunt Rachel used to dish out. Sean's frustrated that he can't tap into his full strength without orders, but he's relieved knowing Yusef won't be bullying anyone else. As he heads out, grumbling to himself, he runs into Hyunho's mother. She recognizes him immediately and asks, "What happened to you?" With a warm hello, Sean greets her and is soon invited to dinner. Hyunho's mother has prepared a feast, urging him to eat his fill. When Sean hears this command to eat, he dives into the food like a wild beast. He is driven by an instinct to comply with the care of someone he now sees as his parent. The mother then gently instructs Sean to drink some water, pointing out that it'll help him digest better. Sean follows her advice, downing the water with a hearty gulp and letting out a satisfied burp afterwards. He thanks her for the meal, and she smiles, happy to see him after such a long time. Sean's mood turns serious as he asks about Hyunho's condition. In response, she assures him that the surgery went smoothly and that Hyunho's doing fine. She's hopeful for his recovery, even though things are tough right now. Then, her strength seems to crumble. Her hand starts to shake, and tears flow freely. She sobs, feeling weak compared to her son and helpless as a mother. Her heartfelt wish spills out of her tongue. She wants to destroy everyone who hurt Hyunho, especially Yusef's father, and tear them all apart. Well, it looks like Sean has finally found a reason to unleash his powers at full force against those jerks. As the lady turns around to apologize for her sudden outburst, Sean's already long gone. The scene then shifts to Byung-woo Construction Company. Inside the building, the father of that nasty son raises a toast to celebrate the record profit they've racked up in the third quarter of this year. He's giving a heartfelt thanks to all his employees, saying it's all thanks to them that Byung-woo Construction has come this far. Among the crowd of employees, we spot one of the same hefty guys who had beaten up Sean earlier, and near to him stands a waiter who suspiciously looks like Sean. The waiter approaches the man and offers to pour him a drink. As soon as the man says, "Pour some," the waiter smashes the bottle right over this jerk's face. The bottle shatters, leaving the wine and glasses scattered through the air. The fatty stumbles back, trying to get himself together, and quickly goes for a counterattack. But Sean is ready. He shoves those bare glasses he was holding into the guy's hands like he's handing over a pair of gloves. Then, with a brutal swing of his leg, he kicks the jerk right in the face. Next, Sean grabs some forks and knives and hurls them at the guards with deadly precision. They hit their targets perfectly. It doesn't take long for everyone to catch on that something's going down. Before they can do anything, a bunch of the black-suited guys are already out, and people are screaming about a blonde kid who's causing all this mess. The mention of a blonde kid rings a bell for the company director. Meanwhile, Sean is hiding under a table, knife in hand. He zips past everyone, slicing through them like they're nothing more than cucumbers with that tiny knife of his. He's sticking to what he's been taught. A parent's words are absolute. He can't ignore the tears and pleas of the mother who wanted everyone to tear apart along with that father. So he's doing exactly what he's been told. He grabs a tablecloth and, before the ragtag crew can get close, uses it as a distraction. He throws the table right at their faces, crushing them under its weight and leaving them screaming their lungs out. Just then, a knife flies in from behind, but he ducks quickly, and the knife hits one of the black-suited guys in front instead. The one who just threw the dagger seems like the same guy with the black gloves, and he's pretty impressed with Sean's reflexes. He's also surprised to see that the arm he broke is still working. Before he can finish playing around with those gloves, Sean grabs the guy's hand and slaps him hard across the face. He expertly locks the guy's arm and snaps the bone inside, coolly telling him, "That's how you break an arm." As the cocky guy sprawls on the ground, a bullet zips past Sean's face, grazing him closely. The shooter is Byung-woo, standing on the first floor, looking disappointed for missing his shot. Sean quickly raises his hand and calls out that it's tough to hit from that distance unless you're a real pro. Byung-woo curiously asks who this kid is. He remembers that Korean kids these days are into something called crew, so he asks if Sean is part of that too. To which Sean responds that he doesn't know what the heck that crew thing means. But if Byung is asking which crew he belongs to, then he proudly states that he is with the Hyunho snack shop. The mention of Hyunho snacks rings a bell for the zombie-like dude, and promptly asks if Sean is talking about that smelly alleyway junk food place. With a sneer, the man shoves the gun barrel right between Sean's eyes and asks if the woman tipped him off to kill him. Sean smirks and says he's absolutely wrong, because all she did was tell him to tear and crush everyone. While the zombie is trying to figure out what the heck Sean is saying, my guy moves with lightning speed, knocks the gun away, and gives the guy a solid slap. That one slap was enough to scramble Byung-woo's brain, and with Sean's final punch, the dude hits the ground, and his face is a bloody mess, nose and mouth bleeding from the impact. Sean makes it clear he's not here to assist anyone, he's just following his parents' absolute commands. With that, he turns to walk away while the guy on the ground keeps ranting about how he should have taken Sean out when he had the chance, and regrets not sticking to his own motto of leaving no work unfinished. Sean grabs the gun, aims it up at the chandelier, and tells the guy to stop blabbering about pointless stuff. He fires, and the chandelier starts to fall, crashing down and crushing the man just as the mother wished for. Sean walks away, shaking his head and muttering how both the father and son are really just the same. We're back in the hospital, where the nurse asks Yusef if he's feeling any better. The arrogant guy just scoffs and asks why he'd be here if he was doing well. The nurse comments that she's heard school violence can be pretty intense these days, but she's never seen anyone as badly hurt as him before. She wonders if the kid who hit him must have been a real expert, though even for high schoolers, this is pretty extreme. As she squats down to pick up her things, we get a glimpse of her giant ass. Man, we already know that the Russians are thick as hell, but this is something next level. She then grabs the injection and asks Yusef what he was discussing with his father earlier about some 3 principles. Noticing the weird color of the injection, Yusef questions what the heck she's injecting him with. Rachel then pulls out her mask and reassures him not to worry, saying that as long as she only uses half, he won't die. It looks like she's finally here to take our guy, and she starts pressing against his chest, grilling him about those 3 absolute principles he mentioned. The guy gets genuinely scared by her death glare and tells her to just get the hell out. That's when Rachel pulls off her fake hair and stops playing games. She straightforwardly demands he reveal the name of the kid who messed him up like that. We also find out her specialties, which are disguise, infiltration, interrogation, and of course, torture. Shortly after, Rachel calls the director when she arrives at Byung-woo's company. She tells him that the boy apparently used his powers. The director is shocked by this news, and Rachel further explains that she rushed to the spot where Sean was last reported. But by the time she got there, he was already gone. The place was a mess, with people badly injured, something only Sean's powers could have caused. The director is confused, saying he has no idea what's going on, because in the history of the Dead Mansion, no one has gone against the absolute 3 principles. The old man walks over to a cupboard, and as he opens it, a deluge of books spills out. He remarks that if Sean is ignoring the absolute 3 principles, it's no ordinary matter anymore. The weapons the Dead Mansion sold off could bypass these principles and target the Dead Mansion itself. He instructs her that her mission has changed, and she must ensure that if Sean is disregarding the principles, she'll need to take action. To which Rachel quickly agrees, and the director also mentions that if she needs support in Korea, she can contact the Baeko personnel there. Just then, 2 men show up right on cue. They're pretty amazed that a single high schooler managed to take them all down. Rachel hangs up, and one of the guys, particularly the fat one, looks a bit freaked out by her appearance and wonders if kids nowadays really dress like that. His buddy explains that she's Russian and that some people are pretty open-minded, adding that even his own wife is open-minded. The next day, we're back at school, and it looks like Rachel has taken on the fake role of a teacher at the school where Sean is studying. She's here to dig deeper into what Sean's up to, and just thinking about it gets her all worked up. She's excited to see how he's grown up. Back in the day, Sean was her favorite student. He absorbed everything she taught him like a sponge. So, she's really looking forward to seeing him again. When she arrives outside the classroom, she spots Sean. He's in the middle of narrating the story of how Yusuf was begging for mercy after he beat the crap out of him. Rachel is completely taken aback by his behavior, and she is having a hard time accepting if this vulgar kid really is Sean. Suddenly, a chubby kid sitting behind Sean gets really pissed off and finally wakes up because of Sean's non-stop rambling. They both start getting cocky with each other, and Rachel wonders if they've already figured out who's boss. She remembers how at Dead Mansion, they had this annual event where the kids fought to measure their combat power and determine who was on top. It was so cute when they challenged her, and Sean was always the strongest among them. But now, Sean looks like he's getting his butt handed to him by this big guy, making Rachel seriously question his status as the strongest. The chubby kid keeps kicking and thrashing Sean like he's just a sack of potatoes, and Sean just takes the beating head on. Rachel's face quickly shifts to a blank poker face, watching this once mighty kid get pummeled like a fool. After a bit of watching, Rachel starts to figure out that Sean probably didn't use his powers because he's hiding his true identity. This makes her think he might still be under the control of the 3 principles, but she's not entirely sure and wants to keep an eye on him. She can see his sharp, sophisticated eyes. The good kids from Dead Mansion should have both physical strength and brains, and Sean always stood out. Even if he's hiding his power, his smarts still shine through. As his former teacher, she's a bit troubled that he can't disguise himself properly and thinks about teaching him again when she gets the chance. While Sean is busy doodling the moment he smacked Yusuf with that fire extinguisher, Rachel gets confused. She thought he was focusing on studying with such concentration, but he's just messing around. So, she gives him a heavy book slam right on his head. In the bathroom, Rachel sits with her head spinning in confusion. She's sure Sean can't possibly be this foolish and starts to think maybe this is someone else who just looks like him. It's hard for her to accept that he might really be this clueless. She decides to change her plans. It's no longer just about the 3 principles, now she needs to figure out if this guy is really codenamed Sean. After class, Sean's head is throbbing. He remembers the teacher usually doesn't hit that hard. Meanwhile, Rachel, now dressed as a student, comes over. But then he hears a familiar voice. After turning around, he sees Hyunho's mother standing there. She's relieved to see him, especially since her bags are weighing her down, and she tells him to please carry them for her. Sean quickly proceeds to carry the bags as commanded. When they hit the snack shop, Sean devours his food like a wild animal. The mother tells him to slow down, and he quietly takes her advice. Rachel starts piecing things together. She figures out that Yusuf is the one who knocked out this woman's son, but she's still not sure about Sean's connection to them. After seeing him eat like this, she's fuming that Sean is just as vulgar as she suspected and is itching to tear this Sean imposter apart. As soon as Rachel takes a bite of her food, she gets a chill and her tongue practically hangs out. She asks for some water after just one bite of the insanely spicy dish. The woman quickly hands over the water and asks if she can't handle the heat. Rachel is stunned, wondering how these folks can torture themselves with such fiery food. She is pretty sure these Koreans are out to assassinate her with this much heat. Sean then tells her to slow down, saying she's being clumsy. That's it. Her frustration has hit the roof, and she vows to take this jerk down. Speaking of spice, she remembers Sean couldn't handle it either. If this guy is really Sean, he should be struggling with all this heat, just like he did back in Russia. She watches his trembling hand, thinking he's having a tough time. But instead, he's giving thumbs up after thumbs up to the lady, raving about how delicious the food is. The woman is happy and keeps feeding him. Rachel realizes he's actually handling all that spice like a pro. She is confused, wondering why he's chowing down on this fiery food like a fool instead of refuting to eating it. Rachel then remembers that Sean helped this woman carry bags with just her one command, and now he's eating without refusing her and helping her with everything she asks for, as if he's following her every command. Seems like she's finally pieced it together. He also would not have killed all those people so skillfully without any commands, and she's sure he was ordered to destroy the Byung-woo construction purposefully. The only person who seems likely to give such orders is the woman he's with. After connecting the dots, Rachel decides to test her theory to see if this woman is really the one commanding Sean. She pays the bill for her food, and while the mother turns to grab some spare change, Rachel sees her chance. She grabs a chopstick and throws it toward the woman. Just as she hoped, Sean leaps from his seat, intercepts the chopstick mid-air, and grabs the woman by her face. The stool nearby tips over as they quickly vanish. When the mother turns around, both of them are gone. When we finally see them, Rachel can't contain her excitement after realizing that it's definitely Sean. On the other hand, it does not take long for our boy to figure out who she is, telling her to drop the act and stop tailing him like that. Rachel greets him officially and asks why he's hanging out with that woman and why he is following her orders like she's his mom. She is sure that there's no way a rundown snack shop owner could be connected to a top kid from Dead Mansion. Sean stays tight-lipped, so Rachel decides to take action. She grabs his hand, launches him into the air, and slams him down to the ground like a sack of potatoes. I can tell the impact was pretty rough, judging by his groans of pain. Rachel then tells him to stop messing around. It's time for him to get back to the orphanage, because there's a whole line of clients waiting for him. Suddenly, Sean's mind flashes back to the painful memories which had been buried in his mind. He is standing in the middle of knocked-out kids, and he's probably the one who left them out cold during their training. There is also this mysterious woman who gave him the name Park Cyan, but he can't seem to remember her. In a sudden burst